There are 417 kilograms of rare earths in every F-35 fighter jet, all of them refined in China. According to Rand Corporation, 78% of United States defense contractors would collapse within 90 days if Beijing closed the tap. This is not geology. This is strategy. Rare earth elements make modern technology possible. Neodymium magnets drive electric vehicle motors. Dysprosium stabilizes them at high temperatures. Samarium guides Tomahawk cruise missile fins. Yttrium and terbium operate AESA radar systems. Without these 17 elements, refined into metals and pressed into magnets, advanced economies lose their industrial and military edge. The conventional story says China dominates rare earths because it has the most. That story is wrong. Rare earths exist in workable quantities on every inhabited continent. Vietnam holds 22 million tons of reserves. Brazil holds 21 to 25 million. Australia, Russia, India, and multiple African nations all hold significant deposits. The United States itself produced 45,000 tons in 2024. The real concentration is not underground. It is in the factories that turn raw ore into usable material. According to the International Energy Agency's Critical Minerals Outlook 2025, China refines 92% of global rare earth output. Adamas Intelligence puts Chinese share of NdFeB permanent magnet production at 94%. That is where the leverage sits. In 2025, Beijing converted that leverage into policy. Export restrictions on heavy rare earths disrupted aerospace, medical, and defense supply chains across the West within weeks. Production lines stopped. License applications disappeared into bureaucratic limbo. The bottleneck was not ore. It was the absence of any processing infrastructure outside China capable of replacing what Beijing chose to withhold. How did one country engineer this level of control? The answer stretches back 4 decades. In 1985, China introduced a 13% value-added tax rebate on rare earth exports. Legal dumping at industrial scale. The incentive was straightforward: scale up production, capture global market share. By 1990, Chinese rare earth oxide output had doubled. Then the strategy shifted. In 1990, Beijing declared rare earths a protected strategic mineral. Foreign investors were banned from mining operations. Ion adsorption clay deposits in southern China, the richest source of heavy rare earths on the planet, were placed under national protective development plans accessible only to state-owned enterprises. China was no longer simply exporting a commodity. It was building an industrial system. Deng Xiaoping captured the ambition during a January 1992 visit to Baotou in Inner Mongolia on his southern tour. "The Middle East has oil," he said. "China has rare earths." That was not a geological observation. It was a policy declaration. The pricing weapon followed. Throughout the 1990s, Chinese producers operated at costs 25 to 35% below Western competitors, undercutting them systematically. Rhone Poulenc in France shut down its rare earth division. Molycorp, operating Mountain Pass in California, the mine that had supplied 60% of global rare earths in the 1980s, could not match Beijing's prices. In 2002, Mountain Pass closed. The official cause was 60 documented toxic spills, including 600,000 gallons of radioactive thorium and uranium wastewater. The real cause was that 20 years of Chinese price suppression had made Western production unviable. The United States, which had invented the modern rare earth industry, was now 100% dependent on its strategic competitor. The consolidation campaign accelerated through the 2000s. Hundreds of independent Chinese producers were reorganized into 6 major state-owned enterprise groups under a strategy labeled 1+5. These were not market actors optimizing for profit. They were policy instruments aligned with national security objectives. By 2011, China accounted for 97% of global rare earth production. The cost structure was engineered with equal precision. Every ton of rare earth mined generates up to 2,000 tons of toxic waste. At the Bayan Obo complex in Inner Mongolia, an 11-square-kilometer toxic waste pond sits next to communities with elevated rates of leukemia and respiratory disease. These costs are absorbed, not accounted for. They function as an implicit state subsidy that no Western producer operating under democratic regulatory frameworks can replicate. Meanwhile, China outsourced the dirtiest extraction to Myanmar. Chinese companies operating in Shan State use in situ leaching, injecting hydrochloric acid into mountainsides, poisoning rivers and contaminating soil. Between 2017 and 2024, approximately 2/3 of China's heavy rare earth imports came from Myanmar. The environmental destruction stays in Myanmar. The processing profits stay in China. On September 7, 2010, a Chinese fishing trawler collided with 2 Japanese Coast Guard vessels near the Senkaku Islands, a disputed archipelago in the East China Sea. Tokyo arrested the captain. 2 weeks later, on September 21st, customs officers across China stopped processing rare earth shipments to Japan. No written order, no public announcement, just silence at the docks. The blockade lasted 38 days. Beijing slashed global rare earth export quotas by 40%. The price of dysprosium, essential for high-temperature magnets in hybrid vehicles and wind turbines, increased tenfold. Toyota and Honda assembly lines, dependent on Japanese magnet manufacturers, faced production halts. The Japanese government allocated 100 billion yen, roughly $1.2 billion, to emergency stockpiling and diversification efforts. China never officially acknowledged the blockade. It did not need to. The message was received in every defense ministry and trade office that mattered. In 2012, the United States, the European Union, and Japan jointly filed cases DS-431, DS-432, and DS-433 at the World Trade Organization. In 2014, the WTO ruled that China's export quotas violated Article 11 of the GATT. China complied formally in 2015 by removing the official quotas. It then maintained the same control through environmental licenses, production permits, and administrative discretion. The WTO had won the argument and lost the war. For 13 years, the West treated 2010 as an isolated incident. Then the second wave hit. In July 2023, China imposed export licenses on gallium and germanium, 2 metals essential for semiconductor manufacturing. The price of gallium rose 35% in 6 months. In December 2023, Beijing extended restrictions to graphite, which Tesla and BMW depend on for battery anodes. Then, in December 2024, China banned exports of gallium, germanium, and antimony to the United States entirely. Official exports of these materials to American buyers dropped to 0. In October 2024, the State Council promulgated the Regulation on the Administration of Rare Earths. Articles 1 and 2 declare rare earths the property of the state and a strategic national resource. This is not an export rule. It is the legal foundation for treating every gram of rare earth that crosses a Chinese border as a sovereign decision. In April 2025, Beijing imposed export controls on 7 heavy rare earth elements. In October 2025, it escalated again with announcements 61 and 62, introducing a foreign direct product rule for the first time. Effective December 1, 2025, any foreign-produced product containing even 0.1% Chinese origin rare earth material requires Chinese government approval for export. Military applications are systematically denied. Semiconductor-related applications undergo case-by-case review. The implementation is the weapon. License applications that nominally require 45 to 60 days now sit for 60 to 120 days with no statutory review period. No rejection is issued. The application simply remains on hold indefinitely. Manufacturers cannot commit to delivery schedules. They cannot sign fixed-price contracts. They cannot plan production runs. This is the system. 3 interlocking choke points. First, refining. 92% of global capacity sits inside China, and Beijing banned the export of separation and refining technology in December 2023. Second, magnet manufacturing. 94% of NdFeB permanent magnets, the components that actually enter finished products, are made in Chinese factories. Third, administrative discretion. Licenses that never arrive, applications that never receive a response. By May 2026, neodymium reached 1,025,000 yuan per ton, a 94.5% increase over the prior 12 months. The volatility itself is strategically functional. It raises costs for foreign manufacturers while undermining the business case for non-Chinese alternatives that cannot guarantee stable pricing. Power doesn't move loudly. It moves through supply chains. The defense implications are immediate and quantifiable. There are 417 kilograms of rare earths in every F-35 Lightning II, distributed across neodymium, samarium, dysprosium, terbium, yttrium, and cerium components. Tomahawk cruise missiles use samarium in their fin actuators. Night vision systems depend on antimony, where China supplies 63% of United States imports. AESA radar arrays in F-22 and F-35 fighters, in Aegis warships, in Patriot batteries, all run on yttrium and terbium. According to a RAND Corporation analysis, 78% of United States prime defense contractors would collapse within 90 days if Chinese rare earth exports were halted. There is no alternative supplier with the inventory to fill the gap. The Western response is real, but incremental. The United States Department of Defense has awarded over $439 million since 2020 to establish a domestic rare earth supply chain. MP Materials, operating Mountain Pass in California, has received over $2 billion in cumulative public and private investment since 2017. In July 2025, the Department of Defense awarded MP Materials an additional $400 million to bring heavy rare earth processing onshore. Until that contract, Mountain Pass was still shipping its rare earth concentrate to China for refining. Australia's Lynas Rare Earths produced 10,908 tons of rare earth oxide in fiscal year 2024 and is building a separation facility in Texas with $258 million from the Pentagon, projected to handle 5,000 tons per year. The European Union's Critical Raw Materials Act, finalized in May 2024, has approved 60 strategic projects. Sweden's LKAB has identified 2.2 million tons of rare earth oxide at the Per Geyser deposit. None of these projects will reach commercial production for at least 5 to 10 years. Brazil holds 21 to 25 million tons of reserves, roughly 23% of the global total. In 2024, it produced 20 tons. 20. Recycling is frequently cited as a solution. The data does not support that framing. Less than 1% of rare earth elements are recycled globally. The European Union's 2030 target of 25% recycling is, on current trajectory, unreachable. The honest numbers are these. The IEA projects that in 2030, China will still control more than 50% of global rare earth refining. Goldman Sachs Research estimates that genuine Western independence is achievable between 2035 and 2040. Benchmark Mineral Intelligence has calculated the total cost of full decoupling at $920 billion. $920 billion. 15 years. Minimum. China's rare earth dominance is not a commodity story. It is a 40-year industrial strategy that converted a modest geological advantage into an absolute processing monopoly. The mining share, 69%, is significant but not decisive. The refining share, 92%, is. The magnet manufacturing share, 94%, is where the system becomes functionally irreplaceable.